I was asked recently by a patron about spiritualized INFJs and the question of morality. And the question was more specifically, is it possible for a spiritualized INFJ to have what we might want to call the wrong moral compass? To speak in more plain language, can a spiritualized INFJ be a bit of a lousy person? Or can they make, without being a lousy person, can they make moral choices that are questionable? Can they be self-serving? Can they be self-centered, egocentric, egotistical? Or does the fact of spiritualization necessarily entail overall upright moral behavior on the part of a spiritualized INFJ? It's a very interesting question because it touches on, well, the question of ethics, so the question of value, and its relationship with the question of type and of typology. Now, the thing that's very important, I think, to always keep in mind when it comes to typology, and especially when it comes to properly identifying your type, which is usually what people are interested in, morality does not come into the picture. Your values don't really come into the picture, okay? It's an empirical matter, really, at the end of the day, whether you are a person who falls under a particular type description or another type description. For you, empirically, it's possible that you fall under an INFJ description or some other type description. But it doesn't really say anything about your moral conduct. And in a sense, it's important that it does not because the moral conduct doesn't matter or because we don't care about values, of course not. But because if you want to attain a genuine understanding of typology and of your type by the same token, you have to leave the question of value aside in the first instance. I say in the first instance because once you've identified your type and you've learned about your type, so say like if you're an INFJ, then you can maybe with the help of my work try to determine whether you lean more this or that subtype. Of course, this is going to provide you with a vocabulary and a conceptual baggage to ask yourself deeper and more clear questions about how you are in relation to the world, your decisions in relation to your life, and then inevitably the question of value enters the picture. You know, when I say that type blends into life, that's a way of saying that type itself is not a matter of value, but the vocabulary and conceptual apparatus that type represents ends up bleeding into value, or rather how you understand your relationship to value. And among these values we can clearly identify the properly so-called ethical values. And so it follows from this that it's not possible to say in advance that just being spiritualized means being ethically well-behaved or morally excellent. First of all, because it's questionable whether we can actually say in advance what is morally excellent, what is ethically well-behaved, what is it to have the right values. I mean, there's no absolute moral system. There's lots of different moral systems. Some people are more utilitarian, some people are more Kantian, some people are more informed by religious lenses on ethics, some people more atheistic, some people are more oriented to Aristotelian type ethics, like focus on the good life, what's good, rather than what's right, not necessarily devaluing or demoting the question of what's right, but emphasizing what's good. People really emphasizing what's right versus what's good. So there's lots and lots and lots of different ethical systems. It also depends on culture, it depends on where you are, depends on family education. So it's not that easy beyond saying, you know, things like it is wrong in all cases to torture someone to death. And even that, some people might argue, and I think that's wrong in all cases, but some people might argue that it's not necessarily wrong from an extremely utilitarian perspective if doing that might save the lives of 1 million people or something. So nothing is easy in ethics. Nothing is easy with the question of moral choice. So it's certainly not possible to say that a spiritualized INFJ, to take that example, will always be morally impeccable. In fact, we can even go so far as to say we know that that person will not be morally impeccable. And the reason why they will not be morally irreproachable is simply that they're human. You know, being human is to be fallible. Religion teaches us this, but you don't need to be religious to appreciate the truth of this. To be human is to be free, and to be free is to be free to do the wrong thing sometimes. And if you never ever did the wrong thing, if you were perfect, you will not be human. And we even know that children who are raised by parents who seek at all costs to be perfect parents suffer often from very empty childhoods. And we know now that there's a relationship between this and the development of narcissistic personality disorders. It turns out that having an imperfect caregiver, I'm not saying an evil one, I'm saying an imperfect one, experiencing the imperfection of your caregivers is one of the royal roads to empathy. Because empathy, in a sense, is the recognition of fallibility and finitude in humans. That's a very deep insight that psychologists have been able to access. So the spiritualized INFJ is going to, you know, make mistakes, do things that are not admirable from time to time, but insofar as they are very centered people, very integrated people, insofar as they have a self with a capital S, and that individuation is really the way, the furthest possible way from narcissism, you can certainly reasonably expect these people to be not particularly self-serving and ego-centered. Will they never be? Of course not, but in general they won't be. And it's safe to assume that these people won't be led by their dark impulses to do terribly evil things. But even that, in a sense, is based on an assumption that I have and that I embrace, which is that a human being, a healthy, mentally healthy human being tends towards the good. Some people might disagree. Let me know in the comments what you think about this reflection, guys. Don't forget to give me a like if you enjoyed this video. And don't forget that I have written 2 books on the INFJ personality. My first one is called The Ecstatic Soul, a new look at the INFJ personality, which is the deepest look at the INFJ type that you will find online. Check the link below. If you are interested, check the reviews. It's helped a lot of people over the years. My latest one, The Infinite Soul, INFJ Life in a Modern World. That looks more at the INFJ in the world, a world that is often seen as hostile and with reason by INFJs. And yet this book argues that it is possible to lead a good INFJ life in the world. If you want to know more, the first link below is your friend. Finally, guys, as you know, I could not do it without you. I very much depend on your kind donations on Patreon, so please consider supporting me on Patreon. The link is below. You get access to some cool perks like access to our Discord server, The Fourfold, where you can interact with me on a very regular basis, as well as bonus videos. I call them deep dives into a topic of your choice every 2-3 weeks. If you like the idea, see you there. Take care, guys, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.